Is he the best damn quarterback in the Big 12? That's what we will talk about today. Hello, everybody. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank goodness it is Friday. Good Friday morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Between the Ears here on Mountain Ears Now. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and that like on our YouTube channel, and then following us on X at the exact same handle. Yesterday, I stumbled upon the Pro Football Focus ratings of the top Big 12 returning quarterbacks. And wouldn't you know it, Garrett Greene is sitting there at the top with a 90.9 rating. My early thoughts was, wow, somebody actually believes in Garrett Greene. That's not within West Virginia, because I think by now most of us are pretty sold on Garrett Greene being a baller. On the outside, it's starting to gain a little more steam as we get closer to the season, but I still feel like there's a good portion of college football that really doesn't know much about Garrett. He's still kind of an up and comer, if you will. And I think a lot of people view him as, one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12, but to say that he's the best quarterback in the Big 12, that's probably the first time I've heard that from anybody outside of West Virginia this offseason. And I think really the biggest, I guess, surprising thing of it all is because you have Shedeur Sanders, who's going to be a Heisman finalist or Heisman Trophy candidate. He's going to put up big numbers at Colorado again. He's more than likely going to be a first-round pick, and hell, he may even be the first quarterback taken in the 2025 NFL draft. There's obviously all the hype out there with him being Deion's son. So for PFF to have Garrett over Shedeur Sanders is very interesting. Um, my opinion on it is I think Garrett, as of now, is probably the third best quarterback in the Big 12. And this is not a knock on Garrett. This is not me discrediting Pro Football Focus. This is not me saying that Garrett can't be the best quarterback in the Big 12, because I believe he can be. But right now, the body of work that we've seen out of all these quarterbacks in the Big 12, I've got to have Shedeur Sanders number one. The completion percentage, the awareness, the just the all around things that he brings to the table, I think are at a little bit higher, more sharper level than Garrett Greene. I think he's more developed as a quarterback. He's more of a finished product. Not that either of them are, but he's a little bit closer to that than Garrett is. Number two for me is going to be Cam Rising at Utah. He is a downright winner. I mean, he's won how many Pac-12 championships? He's a slightly better passer than Garrett. He's around 62, 63%. I guess you could say that's significantly better, considering Garrett was at 52% this past year, 52, 53%. But I do believe Garrett will make that jump, and he'll close the gap between he and Rising in terms of the completion percentage. But everyone just looks at Cam Rising and says, he's just a solid quarterback that's helped out. It's been helped out with good defensive play. He's got really good coaching, Kyle Whittingham. He's got good players around him. And now all that is true. But the kid can play. I mean, he's thrown over 3,000 yards. He's thrown over 20 touchdowns. And each of the last 2 years, he's gone over 400 yards rushing with, I believe, 6 touchdowns in each year. So, no, it's not Garrett Greene level of running, but he's a little sharper passing, and he can run the ball. So that combined has to have me has him at number two for me, especially when you throw in the fact that he's won some conference championships. Garrett Greene settles in at number three as of now. He's has a lot to work on. And I think you still saw that a little bit in the spring game, but I don't know how much of that we can really put, into a stock worth because he didn't start spring. He was dealing with obviously the situation with his grandfather, and had to get a little bit of a late start to spring ball. And they're obviously not going to show everything in the spring game, and the spring game's not necessarily the place where your end all be all judgment is going to be anyways. It's one game. You're really kind of catering it to certain guys to see what they can do, and the coaching staff knows what Garrett Greene can do. They don't need to find out anything other than can he take a few MPHs off some of those swing passes and screens and stuff like that. So that's the area that he's got to work on. It's been well documented. Everybody knows about it. And the way I look at it, that's almost like a dream for a head coach. If the one area, or I wouldn't say the one, but the most glaring area that your quarterback has to take a massive stride in is the underneath stuff. And it's not always accuracy with Garrett on the underneath stuff. Sometimes the accuracy's there. It's just it's coming in too hot. You can't deliver a 98, 99 mile an hour fastball to Jaheim White swinging out of the backfield. Just like you can't deliver a Paul Skeens 101 mile an hour fastball to Rodney Gallagher on a tunnel screen. Just can't happen. That stuff's got to be dialed back a little bit. You got to throw the changeup. And if that's the biggest area of concern, that's awesome. Because how many coaches out there would love to have that be their number one issue? A lot of guys have issue with footwork, and Garrett does have some sloppy footwork from time to time, but it's not as troubling as some of the other stuff or some other quarterbacks out there. There's some guys that just can't complete the deep ball, whether it's they don't have the arm strength or they just don't have the accuracy, the touch to do it. Some guys force passes. Garrett doesn't force passes. Occasionally he will, but he understands coverage, I think, to a better degree than what he did 3 or 4 years ago. And he knows that, hey, if there's a, 55% chance that I'm going to complete this pass for 7 yards, why would I throw it when I know that I've got a crease here and there's about an 89 to 90, 7% chance that I can get 10 yards with my legs. He's a quick thinker. He's a quick processor. And I think that's what makes him elite. Now, the only thing you got to do is just take that few miles per hour off of those little short stuff, the little dinks and dunks. If he does that, that completion percentage will all of a sudden start to creep up to 56, 58%. Then, if he starts to connect on the deep ball a little bit, with more regularity, which he did a really good job of last year, but if it's just a little bit better, you're talking, 59, so percent. And if the receivers do their job and they make their next step in their development, now you're talking low 60s. So even though it sounds like a massive jump for Garrett to go from a 52, 53% passer to low 60s, mid 60s, it's not that big of a jump. It's just a couple of things here and there that will help him get to that point. And by getting to that point, he's going to put himself in the conversation as being the best quarterback in the Big 12, especially if West Virginia's winning games. If they're not, that's going to hold him back. And you could probably say the same thing about Shedeur Sanders. If Shedeur's, putting up decent numbers, but they're not winning games, at least for me, I have a hard time putting him as the number one quarterback. If Cam Rising's sitting there and putting up, pretty decent numbers himself and they're winning a lot, he's my number one guy. Winning is a lot in this. If you're a quarterback and you're not only a baller, but you're one of the big reasons why your team is at the top of the Big 12 standings, that's going to mean a lot. So I think right now, Garrett is the number 3 quarterback in the Big 12, but it's not like this massive gap. It's not Shedeur, 50 feet of separation, Cam Rising, and another 50 feet of separation and Garrett Greene. It's pretty close. And I would say that you can make an argument that Garrett is kind of like a 2B in the 2A, 2B situation with Cam Rising. I mean, I think it's really splitting hairs because if we're talking overall talent, overall thrill factor, Garrett's got a little bit more thrill factor than Cam Rising. It's just Cam Rising is a little bit more consistent in the passing game and has won more in his career, but he's also had more starts under his belt. So lastly here, there's also this element too of, okay, defenses know what Garrett can do now. They're not going to be taken by surprise by anything. How are they going to adjust in his second year as a starting quarterback? And can he counter those adjustments that are made? If so, we'll be having this conversation at the end of the season saying that he is potentially one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. If not, he'll start to fall down the list. You'll see guys like Noah Fafita at Arizona, who I think's kind of right underneath Garrett at number 4. KJ Jefferson from UCF at number 5 is probably for me. What the hell? I might as well just do a Big 12 quarterback ranking article, huh? I might do that next week. But anyways, that's going to do it for me here today and this week here on Between Ears. I'm Schuyler Callihan. If you enjoyed this episode and want to check out more, go to our YouTube page at Mountaineers Now and hit that subscribe button. We've got a ton of stuff up there. We're here Monday through Friday every single week. And make sure you also follow us on X at that same handle. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you back here on Monday morning. Take care.